Right, hey everyone, I'm Klloo. So, the Kayo Armory deck list is out, right? So I thought we'd go through it and we'd compare it to the Heavy Hitters Blitz deck, right? So these are all the cards found in the Heavy Hitters Kayo Blitz deck, as well as a actual competitive Kayo deck, and see how it kind of stacks up and whether or not, you know, it's a hit or miss. It's a miss. From my perspective at least, right? I could be completely wrong, but in all honesty, it feels like you're mainly buying Fabtcg, you're getting High Tanner, and you're getting Strength Rules all as just these little bonuses, but the rest of the deck, not so good. In fact, right, I've made the deck so we can actually see this, which is the value. So unfortunately, I'm in the way, so let me just do that quickly. $10. It's a $10 constructed deck, apparently, right? Yeah. So what do you get in the Kayo Blitz deck? Sorry, class constructed deck, right? You get 3 copies of everything, which is fantastic. We love playsets. But what about the big juicy cards? Well, all you're really getting is Savage Beatdown, right? That's the big majestic, aside from Strength Rules All. And it's a good majestic, don't get me wrong, right? It's used, but it's not a powerful majestic. It's not a cohesive majestic in terms of what you're trying to do with the deck. And overall, I think the deck kind of falls short, and it's not a competitive ready deck, right? The straightforward way to put it is this against, you know, amalgamation of blitz decks. This is going to come out on top, right? Which is good. This against any normal competitive level deck, and I'm talking Armory competitive level, it's going to fall flat, right? Because it's consistent, but what it does consistently is very weak compared to KO's normal game plan or Brute's normal game plan. So in that perspective, I think the deck is unfortunately not really worth it. Well, again, getting Fabtcg because this is just a beautiful card. Maybe, but for what you actually get in the deck, there's some interesting choices, but overall, it doesn't function well because you can't take advantage of, for instance, Mandible Claws, which are being run instead of the mini meat axe, right? Yeah, God. Anyway, let's just crack into it. So, you get KO and your equipment. We'll start there. You get Bean Trackers, High Tanner, Knucklehead, Mandible Claws, and Fabtcg, right? Knuckle Claws, mainly for the temper, so it's nice, right? Good amount of armor. You can chance it for the effects. I wouldn't really, right? 50% of the time, it's negative. 1/6 of the time it's neutral, and then 1/3 of the time it's a positive effect. If you like odds, I mean, maybe once the defense is fully depleted, sure, but yeah, no. Mandible Claw, right? Would be great if you could functionally use it. So if you discarded card with 6 or more, gains go again. So the idea would be to discard, attack, well, swing, attack, right? Problem with that is there is not that many proactive discard cards, right? That's the term we'll use. So, right, you've got Mighty Wind Up and you have Agile Wind Up. You can use them as instants, so you can start the chain reaction of discarding and then be able to swing. Everything else is on an attack, right? There's no just action, discard card for you to start that chain for you to be able to go, you know, discard, swing, attack, right? So you're most likely attacking and then trying to swing. How often is that going to happen? Not very often, because once again, we look now at go again. You have pulping, right? So as long as that's not denied, you've got pulping into a swing, okay? What else? We have Wild Ride. Anything else? Not really. Again, it relies on generating those agility tokens, and therefore being presumptuous. Doing it on your opponent's turn, right, through block, through clashing and winning, or through an instant proc, or again, attacking and then waiting for your opponent to clap back and then going back on the offensive, which doesn't also really work, because if you're doing, you know, something minimalistic, if you're just attacking and creating an agility token, right, your opponent is then a lot more open than the normal brute beatdown to clap back and try to prevent your next turn of actually being able to make use of said agility token, where you most likely want to go attack, agility, swing, attack, right? Which is also a headache because you don't have that much restock, so your hand size isn't functionally going to allow you to do that. High Tanner, good card, right? When you discard a random card, create 2 might tokens. Cool, right? A little oomph. Bean Trackers, obviously they can't include scab skins, so it's the next best thing. But Fabtcg is really the pinnacle of this deck. destroy this, attack action cards with 6 or more, cost 1 less to play this turn. So that's for your big pop-off turn. Has temper as well, which is fantastic. Problem is, with this deck, you're not really going to have that big pop-off turn because, again, the Klloo cards are missing, right? So if we look at the competitive level deck, what do we have? We have Cast Bones, right? Again, reveal, create a might token for each, put them back in any order. Also gets your agility tokens if you get enough might tokens, right? So if you're really high roll, which in this style of deck should be quite easy, because again, there's not at all, is there any action cards? Thinking about it, right? They're all attack. Yeah. So if Cast Bones was in this, it would work, you know, almost perfectly. Not 100% of the time, because you could hit Cast Bones. I mean, they could run 1 Cast Bones in this deck, and that would be fantastic. It would avoid the cost basis, right? Adding a $5 extra card to the deck, right? If they're trying to keep it down and make sure, you know, scalpers don't just rip it apart to sell cards. They can run 1 Cast Bones. Whenever you find Cast Bones, you know in this deck, it's a guaranteed huge turn coming up, right? You get the might tokens and you get the agility. I mean, that would have been fantastic, but they want playsets, right? Now, playsets is fantastic. We love playsets. It's not overly needed, right? Especially when you get to competitive level, because you understand you have deck cards where you don't necessarily want to run full playsets. So using discretion in that sense would have kind of been nice. But again, it's the lack of these Klloo cards. So no Cast Bone, again, as a agility generator for 0 as well with no discard. Or Swing Big is a big payoff attack, right? But then again, lets you go into another swinging turn. Blood Rush Bellow and Beast Within are probably the big 2, right? Blood Rush Bellow to restock your hand from discarding, and Beast Within to, it's similar, right? Again, forgive me, I'm not necessarily a brute player, right? But I do understand some of the mechanics, and hopefully I'm doing it justice. If I'm wrong on anything, do correct me, right? And educate me. So if Beast Within is put into the graveyard from anywhere other than the combat chain, so discarding, manage top card of your deck, lose 1 life. If it's 6 or more, put it into your hand, otherwise repeat the process. Yeah, so it's again, it's a restock card for your discard mechanics, because this is the big issue, right? If we go here, we'll draw 4. What do we have? We have Reincarnate, Assault and Battery, Bare Fangs, and Riled Up, right? So I guess I'm doing Assault and Battery off of Reincarnate, pitching Riled Up, right? That's okay. So that means we're keeping Bare Fangs as our start of our next turn. We have agility generated, so that's fantastic. The next turn, right? So we have that agility. We can now, again, attack, Wild Ride, Mandible Claws, and then, you know, what we stashed in the arsenal. Sure, right? Because, again, draw a card, then discard a card, so that's fine. It's self-stocking. We've hit the decent cards. That doesn't really prove my point. But once we run out of those types of cards, again, Bare Fang and anything that restocks, what you'll find is generally you're losing more cards than what you can play, and there are just bad hands sometimes, right? Because you're not being able to effectively pitch for your cost threshold, if you will, right? Having to discard 1, pitch 2, play the other. It's okay, but it's not as cohesive as the deck could be with those other sort of restocks, right? There are some in the deck, but it's just the multitude of them makes it a bit rough on the odds, right? And I wrote it down. So there are 6 preemptive discard cards, right? So that you can then swing claws first, activating the go again effect. Those are the instant wind-up cards, so Mighty and Agile to create agility and might tokens. Cool. Again, it's on mice from hand to then be able to swing, costing 2. You then have 6 go again attacks to be able to use again in conjunction with claws. You have Pulping if it's not denied, and you have Wild Ride, right? So again, you play one of these, Wild Ride, self-serving, right? You get to draw a card, then discard a card, so you don't minus from hand, so you'll be able to pitch and stock something, right? And then also if you've defended, you probably have enough cards to again play an attack and a swing. Pulping, draw a card, then discard a random card, same sort of thing, right? Fantastic, self-serving. Then you have 9 agility token generators, right? So we have Clash, we have Agile Windup, and we have, where's the last one? Assault and Batter, right? I believe I haven't missed any. So again, those are you're trying to, 3 attacks, right? Being able to attack, swing, attack, if you get 1 agility token, right? So that, again, is good. But it's these ratios that are a bit of an issue. And then you have 12 counteracts to the discard mechanic, right? So Savage Beatdown, Wild Ride, and the Bare Fangs, right? So that's okay. But again, this means that consistently what you want is one of these cards off of an agility turn so that you can play this, keep your hand size, be able to swing, and then attack again, right? Most of the time, your payoff is just going to be an attack and a swing. It's workable. It's just not at the absolute competitive level, right? So again, we get rid of Agile Windup, right? On our first turn, say it's your opponent's turn. So we'll have 4 cards again. We can then play, again, a 2 or 3 cost, swing for another 2, so it's 4 already, right? Do you see the issue? We've now lost our 2 other cards. And then, even though we have the last card, can we play it? Not necessarily. And Savage Slash only comes in to fix that up once, right? And again, in class constructed, we probably want to get the value out of the block first before we actually use it to get that big swing turn. So in class constructed, I think the deck is actually a little too slow for what Brute wants to do, right? Again, you're pushing damage, but you're not pushing as much as what Brute usually tries to do, right? So you're not depleting your opponent's hand, which means they're going to attack back. And if they're doing, equivalent damage to you, then you're not really getting ahead. And it's just back and forth, instead of the normal slugfest of Brute, where you're attacking, they're trying to attack back, but you're always pushing more damage, right? That's my understanding of the usual concept. Now, in terms of, again, the price, at $10, they could have snuck in Blood Rush Bellow. It's a $5 card, right? Even, again, if they didn't give max copies, 1 or 2, still would have helped. Same with Cast Bones. Now, Swing Big, Beast Within, they're both understandable because they're quite costly cards, right? Again, with some of the better equipment slots, they're all costly cards as well. So, overall, this is probably the best deck we could have got, right? For the price, because again, Savage Slash is going to eat up a ton of that. Strength Rule them all is also, because it's just a fantastic tech card, right? It's really good Arsenal Disruption. So that's also going to eat up some of the value. And then Hind Tanner. So the $30 that's basically left from the box price is probably, fairly split between them, and they're probably going to level out to what a decent Majestic usually is. But it leaves the rest of the deck sort of lacking, in my opinion, right? Again, you want to either be attacking, swinging, which there's only a few ways for you to actually do that without an agility token, or again, with an agility token, taking full advantage of that and being able to attack, swing, attack. And that just doesn't seem feasible, even with all the equipment. Now, obviously, you have the action point to smooth things along, and then you just have basically a Might Generator, also decent, right? Again, with Kayo's ability, you'll be able to push a little bit extra damage every turn, right? And that sort of smooths over the theme of 5s. But yeah, it's average, in my opinion, right? And if it's average, it's not a competitive deck. It's a good intro deck, but taking this to, again, an Armory event, you'll do okay. I don't think you'll do fantastically. Again, against anything that's come before it, it'll stand above. Against anything actually within the community, there is tweaks that you need to make to it, right? To actually make it a bit more consistent, a bit more viable, right? I mean, drawing-wise, it's going okay. There you go. This is our first really bad hand where we can go pulping, discard something into another attack, or I guess you do maybe, no, you wouldn't go Bare Fangs first because it doesn't have to go in. Yeah, you go pulping, right? So draw a card, discard a random card, and then defend by less of 2. You can then attack with something else. So that's decent. Again, attack, swing, attack, hopefully, but it can be denied by your opponent, and you've only got the 3 copies, right? So everything you've pitched away, once you get to your end game, is just going to be real awful, because you run out of all those additive effects, and you've chipped away your opponent, just not as much as what I would say a normal Brute does. At least, again, that is my understanding of the deck. It's okay, just not great. Now, we also want to obviously compare it to the Blitz deck, because the other line of thinking is you could just grab 2 of the Heavy Hitters Blitz decks and stable them together. So Mini Meat Axe instead of Mandible Claws is obviously a severe downgrade, because Mandible Claws, you really want to string it, right? Attack, swing, attack. You can't really do that with Mini Meat Axe because, again, it's an activator, but you need that agility to start off, right? Equipment-wise, they're all upgrades. But what the Blitz deck has going for it is the plethora of agile windups, right? So much more use. Same with, again, these more agility generators and not leaning into the discard mechanic as heavy, right? You're running the consistent discards, so to speak, the ones that, again, allow you to draw and discard so you don't go minus in hand, but with a lot more buffing, and making sure that the soul attack that you are playing is stronger, versus the class constructed deck, right? The Armory deck, where what you're attacking with is probably just getting the KO buff. That's it, right? So you're more consistently activating the draw effects, but you're doing less damage overall. That's my, again, perspective. I'll keep saying that because I want to make that clear, right? If I'm wrong, I'm happy to be wrong. Correct me. Compared to a competitive deck, right? Obviously CNC can't run, so they gave Wreck Havoc. Makes sense. It's a budget alternative, so that's fine. E-Strike can't run, right? Again, it's a discard mechanic that you control, so that's really nice. They gave the Humbles, which are a bit deck techy. I don't think they're necessarily needed in the Armory deck. You'd rather have just a normal core brute card that feeds into what you're trying to do. Again, they could have given more pulpings, they could have given more wild rides, they could have given either in yellow. Lots of the cards are included in yellow, right? Again, so they still fit the Kayo mechanic of turning a 5 into a 6. What else? Again, Beast Within, Blood Rush Bellow. Blood Rush Bellow, in my perspective, could have really been included at 3 copies and not really, broken the price of the deck, right? Sure, it would have gone down a little, but $5 versus $15 card, or even Cast Bones again, 1 and 1 maybe, something like that, so they don't disrupt the consistency of the deck, right? Again, it running all attacks. I mean, from an educational perspective, right? This is definitely tutoring the deck. You're able to learn how to play and what you're trying to do with Brute, and then you're able to think, do I play the odds? Do I take out, a couple attacks to run in these powerful action cards at the risk of disrupting these draw mechanics? But then you also learn, well, big chest is a thing, so, I can turn the discard into consistent discard. What else? Anything else hugely different? Cost-wise? Resource-wise? More reds. Again, for just a heavier attack. Is there any one attacks? Swing Big to No Fear was... Oh, this is a new card that I didn't read. Damage Prevention, it looks like? Yeah. Right? That's another thing. There is block, there's no Arcane Barrier, and there is no damage prevention. Right? It's all just strictly in the block. Well, sorry, there's 1 point in Battlefield Bastion. And they could have given the red and the blue copy. That would have worked as well, right? But no Arcane Barrier is definitely a sore point. Obviously, Kayo is not in the mix, but, there'll be that guy who's looked at this deck list and then takes a Kayo deck to these games and just wrecks everyone. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there, right? So, what do you think of the deck? Will it stand up? Is it a hit? Is it a miss? Is it okay? I think it's worth the value, right? Because again, any value is just going to be attached to Savage Sash, then Strength rules them all, and then of course High Tanner. But I think they could have done a bit better, in all honesty. As an Armory deck, as one of their quick start decks. Again, we don't know what they are. They're using a new term, and quick start's not the correct term either, is it? Let me look it up. Right, so whatever those decks are, again, we don't know if they're blitz, if they're class constructive, if they're entirely new format. But again, they're meant to be the teaching points for the game, and this feels like a more teachable deck. Doesn't feel like a great deck, but it feels like a good teachable deck. What are they called? They are strike decks, right? So we're curious to see what they are. This is sort of the feeling I'd expect from them, rather than an Armory deck. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. See ya.